Spackle, did you think I was?
Yeah, I thought you were trolling me.
Oh, I honestly thought you had a cute voice. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
I take it back. It's god awful. It's like nails on a chalk.
Thank you.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding.
99% of the shit I type in chat's usually a joke. Is that considered trolling?
Oh, I don't know.
Was that a joke?
It depends on what you consider a troll. So like when someone says troll, like when Steve says troll, not to get on Steve, but he means malicious, like somebody that's like really malicious intent. When I say the word troll, I could mean all sorts of things, like a troll that's malicious, or it could mean a white hat troll, somebody that's playful. I would put you in the playful category of like white hat, like just eyeballing you and watching you in the chats. Like you make jokes. So you're like Jello Shots makes jokes. Like he's not a bad dude or anything like that. He's not a dangerous dude. He's a playful dude. And honestly, Secular Opinion is a troll. But again, another white. You're not only a troll, Secular, but you can be a troll.
Oh my goodness, shots fired.
I consider myself a naysayer, just since we're on the record.
A naysayer?
With naysayer.
Yeah, and I'm always like, I can be trolly sometimes, and then I'm like, I'm not only a troll, but that's not only what I am.
But to answer hand sanitizer's question, no, I don't think that's trolling if you are making jokes in the chat, unless your jokes have malicious intent behind them.
Oh, see, it depends on how you use troll. Like troll can be different things.
Right.
I know I have to watch my P's and Q's if I ever ask Steve's Hangouts a question. They get kind of pissy.
Look, they don't like it when you come at them sideways or front ways.
Right, and they're under fire heavily right now. They're in full lockdown mode,
yeah.
I think.
So they don't like sideways or front ways. Do they like it from behind?
I don't know. I tried front ways and I got blocked.
Well, so far I've been able to ask bitchy questions and not be. I'm always surprised when I ask a question that triggers Steve and I don't get immediately.
You know, the best way to get under Steve's skin is ask him, explain what you're saying as if you were talking to a child. And he has the hardest time than breaking it down and trying to explain it.
Well, to be fair, I'm not really trying to. Some of the questions I've had, I don't think they ever get answered. Not that I deserve an answer to any question from anybody. Since you have the opportunity with forum, I might as well take it.
Is it philosophical questions?
No, it was the last thing that pissed him off was I asked him, I said that there's this, he loves the word narrative. I said, quite a narrative that the reason you didn't ask for the money is that there was something going on, whether you scamming the government or trying to acquire or hiding money from someone. Why don't you address that so that it quells the narrative? Now, I said that a lot nicer, 200 characters, but that really, they got all mad and said they've addressed it numerous times, and he kind of went on a bit of a tirade.
That just proves how stupid he is, too, because the whole Medi-Cal thing, you could still make money. He could have made up to, I think, $40,000 on Medi-Cal as the limit and still been on it. But he's so stupid that
Well, you have to pay more, though, right?
Yeah,
so every time you make more...
Well, there's different levels of Medi-Cal, and there's also different doctors. He might have to have like copays, but it's not much. But the guy, he just doesn't research things or look into it. He gets scared. He gets spooked. He doesn't right now. I don't understand how he's not in Section 8 and living like in a nice apartment.
Because there's a waiting list near him that is like over 8 years long. That's
well. The waiting list is open right now in Los Angeles.
Fraud Medi-Cal?
He never did. In Sanitizer's defense, he never did explain that. He just denies it. There's no explanation.
Well, he did. He said that he wanted to get more information about. Fuck, I can't remember exactly. But basically, he said that he wanted to get more information about how much he was going to get paid before he started getting money, so that he could talk to Medi-Cal and find out what he needed to do. And the way he said it was really dumb and possibly a little sketch, but not nearly enough. Not in such a way that I would conclude that he is trying to scam Medi-Cal or anything like that. It is a narrative that doesn't have enough substance to it to even rationally suspect he was trying to scam anybody, in my opinion.
Yeah, I want to say that I don't believe that he's trying to scam anybody, nor am I presenting that as a fact as some people do. I just thought, answer the question. I think two of the questions I have that I can't get my mind. Why would he wait a year and a half to ask for money? And why did Boole work for a year and a half free? Because in my mind, I would never do either of those two things. And when I asked Steve that question, his Reds and Chesh were yelling at me that, well, he asked weeks before, and I'm kind of thinking weeks versus 18 months, that doesn't do the math. And Boole said some mumbly shit that I couldn't understand, and basically, I think what he kind of said was, I don't need to explain myself to you. And I was like, you're right, you don't. It's just that all of a sudden there's this Unirock narrative that Steve was never the 50-50 partner, which I don't believe that. But if you tell me that you didn't care to ask, where's my money, what's the business setup, what anything for a year and a half, then it kind of leads a little bit to that he was never a partner.
But do you really honestly care about getting paid 50% of $15?
But here's my question: is they were in business for over 2 years, according to all the latest court documents. They were in business for over 2 years, and Steve doesn't have any idea at all how much money they made in those 2.5 years. I'm not saying he was a scammer. I'm not saying he did anything wrong. But if you're in business for over 2 years and don't know how much you made, that's very telling.
Steve had access. He had access to the bank accounts and to everything for the longest time until Kyle cut him off.
I don't think they had bank accounts.
Yeah, not the bank account. Yeah, because it wasn't a true business. It was just a personal bank account.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, and I think just to touch on what you said about asking Steve those questions is it brings up other questions, right? Just look how the man lives. Look how he takes care of himself. Look how he has no job. I mean, the guy, it just brings up more questions. Like, yeah, I could see him doing something stupid like that, not taking money. The guy's a bum living in a closet. Of course he's not going to take any money. Look at him. I mean, it's a dumb decision. None of us would do it. But it's for someone who thinks they're so smart, made the dumbest decision ever.
Well, I've worked in business my whole life. So this whole story about how you with no guidelines whatever is probably like you explain easy. But if Steve would have just said, you know what, I honestly didn't know how to set up a business. It was kind of fun. We just started doing it. And I didn't actually think we were making any money. And Kyle was paying internet. So I kind of thought that worked itself out. And it's not until I kind of clued in after that I realized there's money to be had. If he offered some sort of explanation like that, which in my mind is what I think happened, then it's a little bit more believable. But the fact that a year and a half into it, all of a sudden up as the, he's getting kicked off the show, and oh my God, I've been out of all this money. Fucked me. I'm kind of like, well, God, if you didn't care for 18 months, why do you care so much now?
Yeah,
But
Steve is a. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, as all of us do, you look at life through your own lens. So I just can't, in my mind, understand guys who do something for a year and a half without sorting out money.
Steve is a terrible communicator about some things. Sometimes he just says things that are really stupid. But that doesn't make him malicious or anything like that. But as far as what he had access to, he had access to the YouTube, so he should have been able to see what was going on there. Then there's also the Patreon, the Teespring, all these other things that he didn't have access to. He didn't have a way to tell. And there's he did have a good idea of what it was making up until the time, but other people had more information than he did. And it's a stubborn point to be, hey, I'm not going to do anything until you give me everything, which he probably took it way too far, but it's not that.
I think I heard on one of his streams he wanted books, and if you've ever worked in a corporation, you know that a fucking $60,000 business, PricewaterhouseCoopers to audit their books, But
yeah, and look how much exactly when they keep saying those books, I think the exact same thing. Like the company, not even a company, this little lemonade stand that Kyle and Steve did, it generated shit. Like that's not even anything, and then they split it, and then they have to split the cost and take home of everything. Of it, the books. I mean, they didn't have any Microsoft Outlook. I mean, QuickBooks. They didn't have any QuickBooks for small business. Like, it was just a lemonade stand that two retards were messing around with.
Yeah. And one of the things I was surprised about was if I was Kyle, and Kyle could have gone to the court and said, well, here, I was the one who had the ID, all the systems. I was the one that all the money for 2 years. And now all of a sudden he's the partner. I mean, again, I believe that they probably set this up as a joint thing, but I think Kyle probably could have had a pretty good attempt at convincing a judge that, how the fuck after a year and a half to go up and start claiming you own half, all you ever did was talk on a show for an hour a night.
Yeah, exactly. It would have got thrown out in a week if Kyle would have showed up and at least presented presented what Steve said and all the evidence that he had. The judge would have just thrown it out. It wasn't a real business. It wasn't incorporated in any state with any secretary of the state. It was nothing. The judge would have been like, this is just a dispute between two idiots online. He would have just dismissed it. The second Kyle would have played all the video clips that Heretic and Nate Brody have shown, it would have got dismissed.
I never questioned that Steve was a 50-50 in the business in the show. That was the impression I got from the very beginning.
Mine too.
I didn't ever.
And I even. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say I even went back and watched the first, I think, 5 or 6 episodes, and they're both there. And I think in the first one, Steve goes, hey, this is part of the great debate thing, and my Patreon is this, and da-da-da-da-da. And Kyle's just sitting like a ball. I mean, anyway, I just...
Kyle's just... you cut out there. Kyle's just what?
Kyle was just kind of sitting there with like a lump. He didn't actually say, yeah, and there.
You're cutting in and out real bad, hand sanitizer. You might want to refresh.
Okay.
But yeah, in that first stream, I think after that, those streams, that's when Kyle relinquished the non sequitur to Kyle, and Kyle kind of took over and was running it. Steve does acknowledge that he did do that, let Kyle take over and running it.
But on Unirock's stream, Kyle said that he was the one who started it. This is why when people say, "Oh, I'm so glad that Kyle's owning up to everything," like, no, he's still fucking lying on these interviews.
Yeah, there's still both sides, I'm sure. Yeah, they're
The
both.
truth is always somewhere in the middle.
I'm not sure, but I think Kyle claims, and I haven't seen anything contrary to it. Kyle claims that he's the one who came up with the name Non Sequitur Show.
Interesting. I haven't heard that.
That was pre YouTube when they were only doing the podcast.
Exactly, but it was Kyle's idea originally. That's all I'm saying.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You sound much better.
Okay. I stole my son's gaming head, so he might be pissed off if I did. But yeah, you know, when I haven't been part of this GDC community, I had watched the Non Sequitur Show, and then I came upon that video that said the Non Sequitur Show's over. I thought, man, what did Kyle do? And I completely believed the whole thing, but then after following Steve then for the next 6 months and the hate orgies that would go on, and then all these other different people, Unirock and all these other people I've been experienced or I've had watched, you kind of like he has fallen from a sympathetic figure line to a maniacal one. I don't know if that's fair, but
Yeah. Steve's had a weird place in the community for, you know, at least from my point of view, for a while. Like a year or two ago when they had the Faithless Forum and Kyle was there, and Kyle's friends with every single person, and you know, a lot of people there like Steve, but Steve's like, oh, that's not my thing. And it's just it shows the difference of kind of person that Kyle and Steve are. Just, you know, there's a lot of people who don't go to it, so I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just I don't know.
It's too bad because I think the two an interesting chemistry show, and I don't think it'll ever. That's never going to be recreated with the people he has now.
Yeah, if the show could have stayed as the way the chemistry was between the two of them before they started having their falling out, that was really good. That was the great shows.
Oh yeah, they were on a trajectory to make it a successful business, I believe. I'm not an expert on YouTube business. It seems that way.
Yeah, it definitely would have made something big. But I kept super chatting Kyle. Stop this flat earth shit. Let's get back to the real questions.
Well, do you guys, what are your views on that whole lesbian ass and Unirock's take that was some sort of scam orchestrated by Steve?
Sorry, what was that?
What is your take on the whole Bass thing and Unirock's take that was a scam?
I'm not sure. Like, that was really, really strange. I don't think the batteries in here work, buddy.
It wasn't, and I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched enough to it to know one way or the other. But the thing I saw about the email or whatever, a fake notice from YouTube, that looked fairly legit to me. Like somebody in Steve's camp faked that YouTube notice.
Yeah, you know, when I look at all that, I think that Leslie got kind of sucked into. She didn't know what she was doing. Steve was probably jumping up and claiming everything bad in the world was Katie Joy's fault. Followed along, and then when he started asking her she panicked. In my opinion, I don't know if it's true, but I think it's telling that she would provide the original, that stonewalled on the dash, even offered to send the money back to Steve. Oh well, and just
Well, I got the impression from Steve's videos, just seeing one and then the other and then the other, that the Leslie Bass, this is who used to be friends with Katie Joy, right?
Yeah.
That was manufactured for the drama.
I'm not clear as to what part do you think manufactured.
That's the thing. It reeked of bullshit every which way. Like, yeah, we'll play Minecraft in a second. It was just like, they're friends and they're not friends and they are friends and then they're not falling out and then they are falling on us back and forth, and it's just I couldn't tell where the bullshit was coming from, but it really smelled like it was a manufactured situation so that the 2 or 3 of them could get views.
Yeah, maybe. It's surprising though, unless it's bullshit, that Leslie arrested, getting separated. It looks like kind of taking the brunt of. Well, not that it's Steve's responsibility at all. Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I tuned out of that shit. Like,
right
you can only
before.
watch so much Katie Joy hate before you just tune the fuck out.
I hear. She got arrested either right before, right after they found a schedule, and I've heard online claim it was cocaine. And then Leslie claimed that Katie Joy somehow set her up from Minnesota, which is just a joke. But anyway. And then I guess Leslie not.
Get your hand off my private. No.
Pretty serious.
Yeah. Oh well. It has been the drama that keeps on. I feel almost like I stick to those magazines in the checkout store. I log on.
Steve, tabloid king.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's definitely entertaining.
I log on. I'm like, well, did the court say something today? Far too invested in this that it. A lot of people are. Well, I mean, I guess it's the way. Right? I'm not the only one, obviously. There's thousands of us that are bouncing from one thing to another.
I can't believe that there is still soap operas on TV, man, with all this shit going on.
But I've Unirock. I watch him basically to get Steve updates, but I don't ever really get in. I mean, I think he tries to throw out all these types of dramas, and I guess I don't care because I don't know or it is talking. I really only care probably 500 hours Kyle,
Right, I'm the same way. I watched a little bit of Unirock just because this was going on, and I don't care about any of his other shit other than what pertains to Steve and Kyle.
I can't stand Unirock. I hate his content, and I'm not 100% sure if he's trustworthy. I know there were a lot of people yesterday who were really boosting him up, but there's so much shit to go through to identify whether or not what he's saying is true or not. And I just too much shit. I don't really care about his stuff.
I'm with you. I don't trust him at all.
I'll tell you what, I enjoyed my. He's got I like his presentation and I like his passion for it, but I don't believe everything I don't believe any.
So you'll want to turn off the automatic noise gate if you go into settings, voice and audio. Turn off automatically determine input settings. That sounds like why you're cutting out so much.
So you're saying in this Discord server, go into settings, what?
Yeah, you click on settings at the very bottom there. Use your
Yeah.
setting. Then click voice and video.
Yes.
And then under input sensitivity, it says automatically determine input sensitivity. Turn that off. You'll want to have it a little bit left of center.
Input device, input volume, output volume,
Keep
Go
going down.
automatically determine input sensitivity. Okay, shut that off.
Uh-huh. And then it
And-
should be about 2/3 to 1/3 from the left, I should say.
Correct. And should I leave it there, or
That's probably going to be where you want it. But that
Okay.
should help with the cutting out.
that's great because we all want to hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really disappointed that there's all these. I started talking in the half.
You really know how to clear out a room.
Yeah.
Like it's like a charisma black hole. So I
That
show
happens.
up and it's like two people.
I want to play Minecraft.
You might need to move that sensitivity a little bit further to the left.
What's up, Samael?
Oh, not much. Just got done with dinner and family stuff and decided I'd come in and contribute to the getting this thing going.
Right on.
I just realized if you set the server link to your status, you basically advertise on every server you're on.
I wouldn't even know how to set. Where do I set my status?
Down in the bottom left where your name is, and it has like your picture with the green dot.
Yeah.
You click on it, and you'll give you a menu that says Online Idle, Don't Disturb, Invisible. Right below that is status. You click on that. It'll open up a box where you can type one in.
Oh, and then put the link in.
Yeah, and if you want to do that, I put the link in the general chat.
Oh, I see.
A permanent one.
Man, I learn something new every day.
I just want my status to be single and horny. How is that done?
Same way. Just go there and type in single and horny.
Joke. Evidently not a good.
It's kind of redundant, isn't it?
Correct, sir.
Can I just set it to grenade in my pants?
Huh.
Where are you guys from? I'm
You
I'm
cut
from-
out again.
I'm from Illinois. He said he was from Toronto, I think.
from Toronto. Yes.
Oh, right on. I'm from the state of Washington.
Right.
I'm about an hour south of Seattle. Depending on traffic, it might be 2.5 hours.
Oh, I'm like 2 hours north of Seattle, approximately.
What's it with you Seattle people and being everywhere I am?
They're needy.
I don't know, man. We
know
get
how to
around.
You're like fucking Visa cards.
I'm married. Hand sanitizer. I'm married to a Newfoundlander. I spent 6 or 7 years there.
Really? Did you have running water?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, my mother-in-law grew up. They used an outhouse. Her family used an outhouse.
Oh my God! In the winter?
So was the running? Was this
She's
so-called
like-
running water running from the well to the house with a bucket?
No,
Yeah, polar bear
No,
chasing
not
your
mine.
ass?
not mine, but my mother-in-law's was. I mean, she's only like 15 years older than me.
She had your wife when she was 15.
She had my wife when she was pretty young. Yeah.
Well, there's
I
nothing
guess
to do
you're
in
right.
the winter.
Yeah. Well, in Newfoundland. Yeah.
The winters are
It's
very
fun.
cold and long. There's nothing else to do. All right, you guys are. I'm gonna go watch something.
I've been reading the outside.
You're just gonna play Minecraft. We all know it.
Oh no, that's
I am.
Jake.
Oh, it's Jake. Oh, okay.
Thank you. Now go change your pants. Why?
No. Oh, I'm gonna go.
4-year-old and I played Minecraft for about an hour most days.
The white Chris Tucker is in the outside chat, and he said about 2 hours ago, and the guy is talking about his kids going to Catholic school, and I have so many comments about this issue. Well, get in here, man.
Yeah, you wasted all your time out there.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic, however, figured it out quite quickly, and now I'm an atheist. I have a 19-year-old son with a Catholic school attendee, I guess you could say. When he was growing up, him and his parents both tried to force me to have my child both baptized and attend Christian school. Oh, God, dude, I can't read all this. You got to get in here.
Yeah, it's too much.
The black Chris Tucker would All right, well, I am
Right.
going to go cruise somewhere else. I'll talk to you guys later.
Sure.
All right. Later.
Cruise.
The stream died. Yes, nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna head out to go watch Prologue.
Sitting right here.
Have a good one,
So-
guys.
Here.
Bye. So is this where I call Brett Keane out?
Yes, this is where you call Brett Keane out. Brett, Brett, where you at?
You coward. You got 10 minutes to get in here. Okay, Chris Tucker, we get it. You can type a lot. Oh, I was saying I can triple dog dare someone without using 3Gs.
Was that you?
Yeah.
You're Sam. You came in under Samael.
What's the same account?
I didn't know that was you.
Yeah. You can change the name every server.
Right on.
Just a test for the Christians to see if they know their history.
Right. Cerebrus. Eat Brett Keane out. Hey, we're calling him out right now.
That coward's over there eating his mac and cheese.
I think it's more proper to raise your kids just to be a good person, and when they get older, if they choose with a fully working brain at that age to devote their lives to some religion, oh wow. I'd kind of agree with that. But, I can't tell you how to raise your kids either, so.
Mongol Freddy just died.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, don't be
Sorry.
sorry. He was ready to go.
My parents are ready to go. My dad just turned 94, and my mom will be 96 in May.
Yeah, Mongol Freddy was 100. Was he 107?
Holy
I think he was actually 106.
shit. Wow.
Yeah. When my grandfather died, I was behind him in the line in front of the casket before we went. Well, not a casket, but I forget what it's called, what the family calls it. But you all say goodbye, right? Pay your respects or whatever. And Uncle Freddy said, "You lucky bastard." And he was ready to go. Like his whole family was gone.
Right.
Like he watched his kids grow old and die. He was just living.
Yeah. Right on. Well, that's good. Huh. Everybody petered out. They must be going to bed or eating dinner or something.
Yeah, like they gotta eat.
Right.
Those noobs, don't they know
Did you-
they can eat online and talk?
Any of the indoctrination discussion we were having earlier?
I caught part of it, but I left because we were I think the room was full.
Oh,
And
right.
I'm kind of just jumping in to manage people like Brett Keane, or try to keep the conversation going when there isn't anything going on.
Right on. That's kind of why I hung out too. I didn't want to, because Demi went to bed.
Yeah.
I didn't want everything to die, but I suppose people can still get in here.
Yeah, and we got 37 lurkers out there.
Lurkers, 37 of them, man. Lurkers wants to go. I wonder if Brett Keane was one of those lurkers.
He might be.
I'm not very familiar with him, but I was surprised how much he sounds like Jill.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Spooky Bed here says get Jay Pasick in there.
Yeah, where's Jay?
I don't know. I'll try and send him a message on Discord.
There, I sent him a link. You should just send him a link too.
All right. On Discord?
Yeah, just to the server.
Okay.
There we go. Mutable Destiny. That sounds familiar.
It might be. I've been around for a while.
I think I've been in a Google Hangout with you before.
Probably. I've been in hangouts with lots of people, so chances are you're probably right on that. How are things going?
Oh, not too bad. Just, waiting for Brett Keane to ice his butt hurt.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Brett Keane is a very, I don't know, just bizarre individual with such a convoluted history.
Yeah, but he'll be back when he needs to make another video about being a victim.
That's pretty much what he's doing now on Facebook. Not Facebook, YouTube, I mean. Just pretty much using people to feed his victim complex.
The atheists were mean to me. They didn't let me control the conversation.
What did you bring up?
Oh, what did he bring up?
What were you talking about?
Oh, with him?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a bunch of things because he goes from question to question, and then if a question, well, yeah, and if a question isn't going the way he wants it to, then he tries to switch to a new question. Right?
Yeah.
What it was is we weren't letting him switch to a new question, and we were just going along with the conversation. So he got mad and left.
There we go.
After trying to talk over everyone.
Demi stepped in and wouldn't let him overtalk anybody, and then the victim persecution started.
Yep. I can definitely see that occurring.
Oh, it was about nihilism. That's what it was. We were talking about nihilism.
Oh, yeah, that all atheists, he was claiming basically that all atheists were nihilists.
Wow. That's quite the audacious claim.
Yeah, and then he was caught in a lie.
Yeah, good old Brett. Lying about people and trying to make a profit for it.
He claimed that none of us liked the dictionary, so then we asked for where he got his definition of nihilism from, and he gave it to us, and then we found out he only read half the definition.
Oh my god. Wow. That's so special.
Oh, there you go. Oh, it's a drag. Back from wherever.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
I've been listening. I've been looking over some slides and shit like that. So,
Nice.
but,
I actually got a life instead of being in the server, eh?
yeah. No, I've just been listening and looking over slides, and but I made dinner and some other shit. So,
So, hey, Drag, what were you getting at? I saw you in the outside chat earlier when we were talking with Fiona and Holy Spackle about, you were saying we needed to define truth or talk about truth theory or something.
yeah, because a lot of the hassles that were had in the conversation were, from what I could tell, due to a misunderstanding of when. So if I were to mention a truth, or like an analytical truth versus any other truth, there is a qualitative difference between the two. And so, to be more explicit, if I said, well, the truth to the proposition that there are squirrels fucking outside my window is different than the truth that 2 + 2 = 4. You get what I'm saying?
In that sense, but where I get hung up, because I'm fairly new at this, is what, and the point I was trying to make was, isn't there a difference between the truth of trying to teach a kid to believe in God and the truth that 2 + 2 is 4?
Yeah, see, that's a really bad example, and people, and not to say that that's not an affront. I'm saying that people typically just go to analytical logic, like with math and stuff like that, because it's easy to reference. But that's not a great example, because these people get bogged down with the different ways that you substantiate that. So I would substantiate that proposition 2 + 2 = 4 vastly different than the truth of a scientific claim. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but where would you? I guess I'm hung up on how. Where's the difference between substantiating a claim that there is a God and a scientific claim?
Okay, so actually, I'm gonna need Sokka to help explain this better. When we talk about the evidence that supports a claim like that, we first would have to ask, okay, what constitutes evidence in this case? Now, the reason why having like using analytical logic, like with math, that's vastly different. We're not going to have a disagreement on that, right? We can show proofs, mathematical proofs for that. But if I talk to a theist and they give me anecdotal evidence, well, I'm not going to say that that's sufficient. Like that's crazy for me. You know, okay, cool. You had an experience and there were wet marks on the wall and yada, yada, yada. That doesn't mean that there's an actual, God out there. That is, right. You just gave me your internal justification for that claim, right? More often than not, and I hear a lot of atheists do this, they'll ask for empirical evidence for this entity, which I think is also bad, because it's like, well, you're wanting evidence that would align with more than likely methodological naturalism, which God would be outside of the purview of that. So you're asking for evidence to work within a framework that is pretty rock solid, but wouldn't really be applicable in this case. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard spot. Do you just accept the anecdote, or do you ask for evidence in an arena that you wouldn't find evidence in? Does that make sense?
Right. That makes perfect sense.
Okay. So that's the hard part when having some of these conversations. And I brought up trying to figure out how to navigate that a bit better, because what we end up doing is using a lot of colloquialisms and we get confused, because I heard the point that that Fiona and others were trying to make, that even though I say something is a scientific fact, everything in science is provisional. While and I agree with Brenda, we're not going to find out one day that the world is flat. We will make alterations to the precision of those claims as we gather more evidence about them. So they will alter, they will change as time goes on.
Well, I mean, that's pertaining more to like scientific theories, though. Like facts, as far as I'm concerned, like with science, more so refers to just it more or less means an observation that's made in science.
Where I was getting hung up was it seemed to me that people were saying there's just as much truth to God existing as there is to the world is an oblate sphere.
Well, I think people might be trying to express that the explanation, well, if they want to call it that, the explanation that a god is responsible in explaining some phenomena in the world is just as good as explaining it by naturalistic means.
Okay, maybe I was trying to understand exactly where Fiona was coming from, and I understand her, but I'd have to talk to her.
Yeah, I mean, she's probably the best person to explain her position to you.
Right. Because it doesn't seem the whole argument or whatever was brought up by the fact that, you know, if you go to a Catholic school, are you being indoctrinated? And then it was, well, if you're being indoctrinated into Catholicism, then it's the same thing as being indoctrinated into science and chemistry and grammar and all that.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with that necessarily.
I don't think I agree with it either, but the thing I don't like is I'm still misunderstanding the other side, I guess. And I don't know if Drag can speak to that because he was here for more of the discussion, but who knows?
Wait, say the last part again. What I understand?
I was telling him that the thing that was brought up was about indoctrination and how if you're going to say that kids are indoctrinated in Catholicism, they're also indoctrinated into science and chemistry and grammar and that. And I don't know if position or not.
Yeah, I see. What I can't what I couldn't really figure out is how were we defining indoctrination? Like that's what I had a hard time trying to get at because I never really heard a straight answer for what you guys agreed on as being indoctrination.
Right. I don't think we ever did hammer that out, and that's probably a large part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have a particular way that I use the word indoctrination, which may not align with the way other people try and describe or use the word.
So anytime I'm having these type of conversations, I always ask, okay, so give me your definition. I'll just work with that, and then we can go forward.
Right.
Well,
and Daryl Frost made a good point earlier too in the outside chat. He says indoctrination is not the bad thing; it's the doctrine itself.
Yeah, I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure indoctrination's right. Just teaching like a set of beliefs.
Watch out. Here comes
Although I think some people use it to mean like uncritically or falsely or, you know, some sort of negative connotation.
Right.
And I think it's more so the fact that, like, it's the passing on of a belief, like, without critical examination of it.
I think Brett King brought this up before about indoctrinating into atheism, and I pointed out you needed a doctrine first.
Right.
How do you get indoctrinated into eighth? Unless you were raised with parents who are like both of your parents are pretty much Iron Raw. I'm not sure exactly how you would, just like rabid anti-theists.
Right.
Yeah, it's just that's right. If you're just strictly holding it to atheism, depending on how you define it, it's like one sentence. Right? So you're not really indoctrinating anyone to atheism. You're indoctrinating them into like science and logic and and then maybe also that one line of atheism.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not saying that it's impossible, but you usually don't see that. There's no, like I don't know, but it may be because I've actually been indoctrinated through the military, so what I consider indoctrination is a bit different. Like I think that a part of my upbringing could be considered indoctrination to a degree, but it wasn't. It was heavily biased. I'll say that my upbringing was heavily biased towards Christianity, but I had to really sit down and think about it being indoctrination.
Right. And I see, I was raised in the Catholic Church and was basically forced to attend Catholic school from the 1st through the 8th grade. And I see that as indoctrination, but, I don't know.
Yeah, I would say most people's upbringing, even if it wasn't religious, is, I guess, technically indoctrination, right? I mean, you're being taught something because your parents want you to know it, and it's not like you're critically thinking about it, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's more so that like at that point in time, you don't have like the mental capacity to actually like really analyze that content, like of what they're teaching you.
Yeah, you're like a Marine. You're just head open.
Yep. Fucking jarhead. It's a good analogy.
So what's the, and somebody mentioned this in the outside chat, what's the difference between indoctrination and teaching?
But it's like I said, indoctrination, you have to have a doctrine. Right? You can just teach someone one thing. Like if I taught someone 2 + 2 is 4, that's not indoctrinating them. But if I taught them math, then that's kind of indoctrination because math has a bunch of rules.
So yeah, that leads me, man, I don't know. I can't get this squared in my mind. So you don't see a distinction between teaching a young child religion and teaching a young child mathematics or grammar or spelling?
I'll say that there is a difference, right? I do recognize that there is a difference between the typical, pedagogy that we see in school and like I'd say public school or a better example, college, right? Because I can disagree, I can provide evidence, I can back claims, and I can challenge. When you're going through indoctrination, none of that kind of stuff is present. So I think that means a lot. There is no real dogma when it comes to, that form of pedagogy versus just being instructed to believe something fundamentally.
Man, thank you. That cleared a bunch of stuff up for me right there. Because if you're in the military, you don't have the luxury of saying, I disagree with that, or that's not how things should be done.
Yeah,
right?
No, that's not a thing.
With the same way with me, from 1st through 8th grade, is you're not going to question whether there is a heaven or a hell, or if God exists or not. There was never, like, I guess I had a choice. And later on in life, I found out that some of my classmates, they realized early on, like in the 3rd or 4th grade, this is all just a bunch of bullshit. And I never did. I didn't really realize that till I was in my early 20s before I even started to think critically about it.
You didn't get the memo?
No, no, man, and I'm pissed off.
No, I think a lot of people have that feeling that, hey, I because I had that feeling like in my late teens, I was being lied to. I had the time that here's how I thought about it. I was being lied to my entire life, and the time that I spent being lied to, I could have been learning mathematics. I could have learned mathematics better. I could have focused on something that actually mattered and would help me in life. And so that made me because I felt mentally and intellectually crippled because of that. And that generated a lot of hate, a lot of resentment.
Yeah, I can see that. Very similar.
Yeah. But I had to, I had to accept something. It's like, well, so if someone's lying to you, that malice has to be there. That intent to lie to you has to be there. And, after I kind of sat and I talked to other people and I thought about it, it's like my parents don't really understand that there are alternative ways of teaching someone morality. My parents have no idea that there are different systems of ethics. They have no idea. So I was expecting them to use a toolkit that they did not possess. And that's unfair to them.
Exactly. Yeah, I get that. Sooner or later, you got to let, the past is in the past, and what can I do with what I got left now?
Yeah. That is, I got over myself. I'm typing stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. People need to remember you have to forgive people for their ignorance, and I mean that in the nicest sense of the word ignorance. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't, hold my parents to standard, if we're on here on G Plus, that's different. I'm gonna hold motherfuckers to standards because, to know better. But if it's just, two folks in their 60s who have not really had any formal education or any informal education on philosophy, why would I believe that they understand, the difference between, about to say foundational, the difference between consequentialism and virtue ethics? Because they don't. I can't see the chat, so I don't know what people are saying. Let me see.
Oh, they're talking about indoctrination.
I stopped using that. Term because I used to use it a lot in conversations with theists. It's like, I don't want to be indoctrinated, and you guys just believe this stuff because you're indoctrinated. I just toss that term around, and being challenged with drawing that demarcation between being formally educated on something or being systematically educated on something and being in indoctrination. That's a lot harder than you think. And doing it in the middle of a conversation is incredibly hard and stressful. So I stopped using that. And I just okay, well, if I ask people, were you given a choice what to believe as far as your religious orientation growing up? And people say no, then I said, well, do you think that had an influence on how you view religion now? And I won't even ask whether or not it's something that they still adhere to, because it's not really germane at that point. But I find it's interesting that people can acknowledge where they're at and how they came to a conclusion, but then kind of ignore that it's very similar to what was forced upon them as kids.
Yeah. This is why some people argue that it's child abuse. Right?
Yeah, I know. I have a very narrow range on what I consider child abuse when it comes to that. Like some of the shit that Deidre had growing up, the Holy Spackle, yeah, that's definitely child abuse. But I'm trying to think of something I think telling kids that they'll go to hell, that's mentally abusive. I think like actually like saying that, you know what, here's our beliefs, you know, as a family. You know, there's a reward of heaven and there's a punishment of hell, and we're all trying to move towards heaven. That's okay. That's a reward and or incentive and you know, de-incentive, I guess, standards, just like you would have with school or work. But when you really stress that, you know, you're going to hell, you know, you're thinking about, you know, the opposite side, you're going to hell, you'll burn, like the kind of shit that G-Man says to folks, I think is abusive. So it's all in tone, it's all in how it's communicated.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
fundamentally, its original purpose is to serve as a way of fear-mongering.
No, I don't disagree with that at all.
It's to keep people in line with a particular set of cultural relative cultural values. At least to me, that's what it seems to be.
oh,
Hello?
Hello.
Yep.
Hey,
There you go. Back.
you were talking about child abuse, like as far as like indoctrination, or are you talking about child abuse as in unseen things because you're homeschooled?
Child abuse.
technically, I think we mentioned it in both senses.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say that in an indoctrination sense, something that I think was abusive, and food just came, so I'm going to leave in a second, but I was terrified of, like, I was made to watch this, and it's cheesy looking back at it now, and Sinister Porpoise was actually watching this live. It was the Mark of the Beast movies and the Thief in the Night movies, and it was about, like, you know, like Jesus is going to come back and you're going to be left alone, and at a certain point, like, you're going to be, like, executed and they're going to chop off your head and stuff like that. And, like, I watched that as a young age and it freaked me out. And so, like, one time my mom was, like, gone, and I was like, oh no, the rapture's happened. Because, you know, back in the 80s, like, parents could actually leave their kids home. And I was just convinced that, like, the rapture had happened and all that stuff. And so, like, that to me is just, like, unnecessarily, like, mental torture, right? Like being all freaked out that the rapture's going to come or you're going to go to hell. And that's just ridiculous.
I agree. I was raised basically the same way. I mean, I feared hell. You know, what does a 5-year-old need to know about a fucking fiery pit of eternity?
And make sure you don't go to hell for taking somebody's bite.
That's scary. Anyway, I gotta go again. It's here. Bye.
All right, later.
We have good comments in the external chat. I don't know why they don't come in here. They're shy.
Who's that? Daryl Frost and the Yaddle God? Yeah, just hop on in here. You know, because I don't feel like clicking on this again and again, because I got a game up in one screen and I got a PowerPoint in the other. Very efficient.
Yeah, Vincent says narrative.
What's with that sound that's like rhythmic almost?
Oh, you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
And it's not horrible. It's just like, what the fuck is that?
That's from the game.
Oh, okay.
I have the audio from you guys going through a different monitor.
Okay.
Can you still hear it?
Nah, it's fine. Now it's good.
Okay, so I brought this up earlier, and it's an argument I've been kind of running, and I haven't really got any pushback on it yet. And it's that between two possibilities or two hypotheses of what kind of universe there might be, one being a godless one and one being one with a god. The one with the god, the universe with the god is subjective because it's all subjective to the mind of the creator. And the only way for there to be an objective anything, whether that be morals or experiences, you would need a godless universe to get that.
Okay, there's a loud female in your background. I didn't catch the last part.
Yeah, I missed that. It was hard to concentrate.
Yeah. Well, how far back? What was the last thing you heard?
So I heard the subjective part with the God and something after that. But after that, I didn't really catch anything.
Okay, so the universe with the God would be subjective because it's subjective to the mind of the creator, right? It could change on a whim. There's nothing necessarily solid about it, right? It's just whatever the creator wants whenever the creator wants.
Okay.
And the only way to get anything truly objective, like just as it just exists, period, in that sense, you would need a godless universe, right? So if there is any way to get something like morals to actually exist objectively, you need a godless universe.
How do we rule out subjective morals?
Oh no, you wouldn't, right? It's just if there are objective morals, this would be the only way to get them.
Is in a godless universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've said something similar to Veckel, because he claims that God's laws, as in the laws that are established by God, are objective. And I said, well, how? Okay, so the views and opinions of God are edicts that dictate morals, right? He said, yeah, and you say that that's an objective. Yeah, okay. I said that doesn't make any sense. And so he and I argued for like an hour, and I said, fuck it. I pulled a Brett King. I went to the dictionary and I read off the definition of subjective. And then I asked him, does that describe what you're talking about? He says, yeah. Okay. Well, I said, well, I just read off the definition of subjective. And he got pissed. And it was like, dude, I know I wasn't going fucking crazy, but good luck getting him to agree with that.
Yeah. Beckel special pleads whenever it fits his narrative.
Oh yeah, narrative.
Yeah, this is basically the argument I've had a bunch right in the past. It always bothered me because when Christians go, or it's not just Christians, but other theists also can go. Well, everything, but what you want is just subjective, right? They act like that's some terrible thing. But in reality, what they mean is that your subjective opinion of this is different from God's subjective opinion of this, and that's a problem. Why don't you think that's a problem?
Because you're a fallible fucking human being. That's why.
Yeah, well, it would bug me less if they just said, well, you're fallible.
That's what they're trying to get at, is that, well, God is perfect, and his opinion is a perfect opinion.
And that's why we have slavery and all the other fun things that happened earlier in the world's history, right?
Well, that's a whole messy subject.
I mean, it was perfect, and those things existed because he ordained them, right?
Yeah, but now you gotta talk about, like, exactly how does God work, right? Is there free will, or are you, like... Is there like a permissive will and a non-permissive will? Like,
yeah, just somebody gets into that. I can't remember who, but I remember hearing a debate about that. I actually was a debate with Skylar about. I think it was Matt Slick brought it up, where God's permissive will versus his, I guess, not permissive will, or some shit like that. I don't know. It's like it comes across as just cop-outs, because in one aspect, when we're asking, like, how, let's presume that this deity exists, and you're saying that it created things. Well, how did it do it? Well, I don't know. We can't know the mind of God. But then when you talk about how morals and shit works, all of a sudden they fucking know how the mind of God works. This is crazy. I don't know how it works. But maybe I'm not touched in magic.
Or if you ask a creationist for their response, it's, oh, well, that's just the way God wanted it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, okay.
Which is as worthless as an answer.
Well, that's
great.
great.
Well, okay, that's fine. So if God could have just wanted anything anyway, anything, like, in any way he wanted to, that explains nothing.
Yeah, it's what Calvinism does to you. It rots your brain.
Yeah, that was Matt Slick, and they talk about the decretive will too, whatever that is.
Okay, that was the other category. Yeah, I was like, all right. I don't really care enough to discuss that, and that's one of the reasons I don't really discuss the Bible, because, well, you can just kind of contrive whatever you want to at some point. And I say contrive in respect to the different hermeneutics that are out there from different Christian scholars and what they think that this omnipotent, perfect being is just trying to, communicate to the rest of humanity, because, clean water through, dirty filters.
I never thought of it like that. I'll have to remember that.
Well, oh no, that's something the Christians say. It's not, the way that I used it is not how they use it, but it's funny because it applies here. That's how you have different hermeneutics. These are a bunch of different dirty filters.
Drag, I have a question for you that's totally off the subject, but did G-Man ever respond to you at all about being back at his job?
Oh no, he's gonna pretend like no one told him about that. I'm pretty sure someone said something now.
Okay,
that actually makes me ask the question: when did we first know that he didn't actually lose his job?
Oh, I've known for a while. I've known for well over I'd say 2 years. Yeah, because he lost at the end of 2018 is when he lost the house. And a friend of mine who lives in this area confirmed that he was still at the job. And then we talked to Shani back when she wasn't so fucking crazy, and that he had told Shani that he had lied to everyone just so he could still work there. So there is another video where a friend of mine does call the job because she was looking for an appliance, because again, she lives in the area, and he answers. And so, yeah, this is the second time that we've confirmed that he had been lying.
Wow. That boy is special.
Yeah. Well, the reason I called because I wanted to get the real story on why he was fired, because I figured that he was fired, and I actually ended up calling the wrong place and then calling that place, and I was like, to my surprise, he answered. I was like, oh, okay, well, let me get off the phone.
Put on your southern accent.
Yeah, that's my Louisiana accent, because he's gonna be mad. Oh, you called my job. I said, well, you said you didn't work there anymore. So you can either, because it's going to be weird to hear him argue that I was calling to harass him, because he'll do that. I said, well, G-Man, how did I know that you were working there then, right? Because you told everyone that you weren't. So I would have had been calling there for a different reason. That doesn't make sense unless you knew that I knew that you were lying. Then that's even worse, because now you're admitting that you lied. So he's going to have to fabricate something. So his anger is not going to be justified in any way, and so he may just play dumb to avoid having to lie. But
I just think it's,
go ahead.
In my opinion, I just think it's like precious how he blames everybody like for his own shortcomings regarding like him doxing himself or any other stupid thing he's done on the internet.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually hard for people to take responsibility for their actions. So, at least on the internet.
I think it's.
I guess so. I think it's like. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's very commendable of you that you kept that for that long, because that does, and I know you realize this, that does protect him somewhat.
Yeah.
That was that was big of you to do that.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it. I could, as soon as I found out, I could just go live exposing G-Man, yada, yada, yada. So I'll just play a little clip here. And he says the name of the place so quickly that I don't think most people even caught it. But it's not worth it for me to, berate him over it because I've been through this with him before. And I'm not surprised in the least. So, I mean, it's just kind of another day for me.
Right. Well, and then you get people that you can't control, obviously, that are gonna fucking start calling his work again and ordering pizzas and flowers and shit.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not. The last time that started happening, well, it's some of the people who are doing it are people we're having issues with now, and I had to go live last time and go, all right, people who love fucking with G-Man, can you not do that? Because that shit's not cool. Well, he's a shithead. Okay, well, cool, he's a shithead, but harassing them like that is just out of line. And I'm not surprised that the people who were doing it before are the same people we're having issues with now. Like, same fucking people. But
that's just malicious bullshit, man. I mean, I'm a dickhead, but I don't want people bothering me at my fucking job. There is a line.
Yeah, I mean, people get this notion that they can't be touched because they're behind a computer screen, and it's for some people they have to put their face in shit in order for them to realize that no, your actions do have consequences.
I mean, there are a few things like that people did that kind of pushed the line of trolling, just that were just genuinely fucked up. In retrospect, it's just like, yeah, but most of the stuff wasn't really that severe. Most of it was kind of just aggravating him.
Yeah, no, it's like little stuff.
People. I mean, people ordering pizza or Chinese food and then making him pay for the shit. Yeah, that's kind of fucked. Like, you shouldn't do that, but...
yeah, stuff like that's just shitty. Just shitty.
But what's interesting, though, is that, like, actually looking back on it now, it means that... So, even though G-Man knew he wasn't fired, like, he was still that angry at us when he did his response stream to our stream. Like, when he was threatening to call the police on people, and he actually did.
Oh, with the sledgehammer, the one that's deleted now?
Yeah.
That was a different time. So he was upset that that I had put part of his name in a let's say movie, in a video. So that was the hangout that I had called what was it? It was Gary Moore Cole. No, Gary Moore Cole. Like, so Gary Moore Coleman. That's what it was. Gary Moore Coleman. So it's I use G-Man's last name as a middle name and put the name Gary Coleman in the title. And so all he saw was Gary Moore and ignored the rest of it and said, well, that's my whole name. I said, no, that's not your whole name. I know his whole name. I knew where he lived. I knew where he worked. I knew everything about him. And he lied. And so
Gary Coleman and G-Man are about the same heights too, just saying.
Yeah. But he used it as an opportunity to have an axe to grind. So, he just lost his shit. But I mean, it's what he does. It's that outrage because he sees what he thinks is like the dominoes falling, and he just takes the fuck off. I mean, he can't handle shit. But the same thing that happened when I'm trying to think of another example. So I don't know if y'all caught this. You might not have. Do you remember when he thought one of his accounts was hacked?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And he deleted Marked by God. So that's a perfect example of just the overreaction and him not being able to kind of mitigate his emotions at any reason, like any reasonable adult. And so it is just funny to see other, I guess, permutations of that happen. But it's quite sad actually. I don't really take any pleasure watching that, other than just kind of how emotive he is. But like the just the anger part of it, yeah, it's a little gratifying, but it's more so sad to me, because I've heard people say stuff like, you only talk about folks to make yourself feel better. It's like, no, there's nothing about G-Man's life that I need to shit on in order to make myself feel better. I don't think anybody else does. It's like he lives a terrible life. there's nothing I can do or say to make it worse, or anybody.
Yeah, pretty much. And part of it too is, I think G-Man, in some sense, is responsible for where his life has led him.
Oh yeah. Oh, he is.
Part of it too is just the fact that he doesn't realize, or he refuses to acknowledge the idea that the attention, the reason he has so many subscribers, and the attention that he got back in the day is negative attention. People have always viewed him as a lulz cow. Even going all the way back to what is it?
Drunken Peasants?
Yes, that's right. Drunken Peasants.
He's realized it slowly but surely. He's started to realize that his infamy is based on people just finding him amusing, and that's about it.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like something he can accept, though. It's something that he recognizes, but he fails to fully understand that the reason he's popular is because he's a failure.
Now, when you say failure, you have to be very careful, because there's no real metric that he's established for himself to fail. So even the fact of him being around means that that's not true. Because if you were to ask him and say, well, G-Man, what's the criteria for you being success? Oh, well, I get to preach the gospel. Okay, you get to speak. You get to have a voice online. That's anybody can do that. That's not really a something to brag about. Anybody can do that. But you ask him, okay, so what would be a sign of failure? Well, if I don't get to preach, okay, you get account suspended or something. Yeah, but then he said, well, I could just get another account, so he would never fail. So it's there's always an escape plan, right? There's always something for him to succeed in the end.
Well, I think if you go back to his his very original goal, as an evangelist, it's to do what exactly? It's to preach the gospel and to bring people to Christ, essentially. Which maybe he's converted one or two people, but overall, I don't think he's been very effective in achieving that goal.
Now, if you were to take and calculate the amount of hours that he's put in per week, and then per month, per year, however long he's been on YouTube, not very effective at all. But you would have to have somebody to compare that to. So what is the conversion rate, right, of people from one position to another, that will the other being whatever G-Man theology is. And you could probably determine that. But if he has one success, that's something to him. He's not going to discount that one person. And I've actually chided him a bit. I've saved more people's faith than you've actually destroyed.
Well, and that's the thing, right? It's that I don't think he views necessarily people abandoning the faith and people being converted into the flock as equivalent necessarily. He doesn't see his actions as driving people away from the faith as necessarily beholden to him as an individual.
Yeah, he has an interesting way of trying to square that circle. He understands that his actions do have an impact on people, but it's always positive, right? There's nothing that he can do negative to actually impact somebody's faith, which is interesting given, the other belief. But because when we brought up people that we know, in our little Discord and like people's kids and associates that just kind of casually seen G-Man and the impact that it had on them, like he just outright denies it. Just it's an evil atheist lie. He can't fathom that. It's too painful for him. But he'll keep living in his delusion because, atheists lie and yada 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 yada. And I see the Yato goddess here.
Oh yeah, I'm in there.
What's going on?
You talked.
Not much. I'm really just here being nosy, listening to a bunch of.
Listening to what?
I said I'm actually just here being nosy, listening to y'all talk.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, feel free to contribute, ask questions because it's easier for me to talk when there's other people.
I actually wanted to ask you, have you ever thought about G-Man maybe having some type of mental illness, like some type of emotional problems?
Yeah, he's already been diagnosed with emotional disturbance as a kid.
And so basically all this is basically like a shoot off of
in part because it's something interesting. He claims that he was cured of that when he became a Christian, which clearly not true, but there are emotional issues that he has, but then there are just simple like personality defects that we see in other people that come out in him, such as the extreme ego, like the just incredible fucking ego on him, and just how self-centered he is. Like those, I think, are separate from his, intellectual disabilities.
See, I'm not sure that it's exactly separate because I have a family member who's somewhat like that, and they kind of mix their beliefs like directly into their emotional distress.
I think it plays a role into it, but I kind of know exactly what happened to him, and a little bit before the event that really caused the intellectual decline, I would say that it's a combination of a few things, a particular series of events in his life. The fact that he was raised by pretty shitty parents overall. There's not a way to get around that. But
well, you said his stepdad was from the Nation of Islam, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then having family members, especially like older brothers, that are Black Hebrew Israelites, because that's always great.
So that's where the whole Black Hebrew Israelite fixation came from.
In part, a lot of people in that area that he grew up in are really big into it.
So that's what I wanted to ask you about too. Like, do you have any interest in the Black Hebrew Israelites? Because I mean, me being black myself, I feel like they're a huge hindrance to like black people as a whole.
Yeah, and a part of me definitely wants to dedicate some time to them. I at one point earlier this year immersed myself into a group that deals with debates, if you want to call it that, with them. But I had removed myself from that because the platform that I was on was incredibly biased, a waste of time, and honestly, a lot of guys there are just fucking stupid. They're just not a nice way of saying it. But my main source of information on them is I still talk to the former members of Shield Squad. And so, like, I got their phone number. So, every so often I'll chat with them, see what they're up to, and kind of keep an eye on, like, the ISUPK folks here in Houston to kind of, eventually make an excursion over there to kind of see them and interact with them more. But they don't live and reside where I do, so I am insulated from their nonsense. So
Right,
it's easy. Go ahead.
They're on the East Coast, right?
ICPK?
No, I'm saying the Black Hebrew Israelites. Most of them are on the East Coast.
Yeah, a lot of the major camps, because it started over there. So
Yeah,
they have
New York,
chapters over here. Say again?
I said in New York, right?
New York, New Jersey. I want to say they mostly stem from the One West ideology, and I'm gonna probably butcher this, but there is a street in New York, one West Street, and that was like the progenitor of some of the major camps today. So like GMS, ISUPK, IUIC. There's I can't remember the name of the other one, but I missed one. But yeah, so they all kind of stem from that one group on One West, and they're really heavy over there in the New York, New Jersey area.
So what? How do you feel about the Hotep?
Oh, the whole yeah, I think they're less of an issue. I don't think too many of them are shooting up shops and stuff like that. I think that their history revisionism is pretty funny, but also kind of dangerous because it ends up making them and a lot of the kids actually susceptible to like pseudoscience, like people like Dr. Sebi. And so they'll end up getting scammed by, folks like that and hurt too, especially if they have some dangerous medical conditions.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know if you heard about the whole situation with this dude named Brother Polite, but he ended up taking a lot of people's money, and then he kind of ducked off after the fact.
Yeah,
He was
you
part
see
of
him
that whole Hotep thing.
it's I remember seeing something about Brother Polite, and he's at parties now taking selfies with models and shit like that, hanging out with people that he previously said were the devil and that, people should avoid.
Yeah, it seems like it's not really all that much talked about, like in the atheist community, and I think it's something that should be more prevalent because there really is a big whole problem with the Hoteps and the Black Hebrew Israelites.
Well, that problem stays fairly insular, and I'm just gonna be honest, you're not going to hear a lot of people talk about it. That's why I don't even bother really mentioning it on my channel because nobody really cares. But when it does impact people's families and stuff like that, because I'm familiar with what they do. I've talked to G. I've met G Khan in real life, and he and I went to dinner with my wife and sat down and talked about his experience, being a Black Hebrew Israelite and how they'll try and ingratiate themselves into your family, and then your wife and kids, they don't have to be a part of the camps and they don't have to do this and that. But then when, it's time for, you to actually be, inducted and you're in, well, then guess what? You got to abide by the rules. And their rules are that your entire family has to abide by these rules. So your wife is going to lose her ability to be an autonomous agent. Your kids are going to be forced to believe the shit too. And so they'll actually encourage, a guy to leave his wife and kids for the camp. Like it's incredibly fucking toxic and destructive. But that's what they do. They'll break up families because you know what? Captain Tazariak or General Yohana Hamana, needs money.
Oh, so it really is a cult. Because I don't actually know that much about it.
It is an actual cult. No, it is an actual cult.
It's definitely a cult. Like it's even like somewhat to other Black people. Like it's somewhat even racist to a point because some of the things that they talk about racial superiority.
Yeah, which is I've heard a little bit of it, and I've actually spoken to before I lived here, I met a Black Hebrew Israelite over on Montrose. It was I forgot where it was. It was somewhere in center Houston where we were staying uh, near the Hard Rock Cafe. I can't remember the street, but he was on the street corner. He had his 12 tribes sign and all this other shit, and I asked him, I was like, so did you you do any research into this? Because, this group and this group and this group, they're genetically similar. They're really similar. They actually all come from the same area in West Africa. And so, I didn't know that. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So have you have any knowledge on genetics? Because, this chart seems really interesting. Oh no, it's all in the Bible. I just believe it. And I said, okay, just kind of ask him about how he knows that these claims are true. Just ask him about his epistemological toolkit. And, I could tell the dude wasn't really educated just in general. And I hate to say that, but it's just, he didn't indicate to me, or didn't seem like he really understood what was going on. He just knew what to repeat. And he knew, kind of sort of what he believed. And that's about it. And really didn't have any time, no real investment in truth seeking, just professing. So I think that they gave this guy, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say one of the main things that I've noticed with a lot of those people is that they don't necessarily believe in what scientists have came to conclusions on, especially geneticists.
Yeah.
And it all stems down to this, it all stems down back to where things have happened with Black people, where we've had conspiracies against us, and at those times they were actually conspiracies, but now they're kind of take it to the extreme where they think that scientists are and other people are in a whole conspiracy to keep down Black people, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But and I'm like, they have this idea that no type of Black people can even be scientists. I mean, even my own uncle had told me something about genetics because I took a DNA test and showed it to him, and he had the nerve to tell me like, "Oh, do you know that that's actually?" And I'm like, "Well, they give me updates and things like that. There are actually Black scientists and Black geneticists, but for some reason they think that all of them are a certain color and of a certain belief." Even though my uncle isn't exactly religious, he still has that same belief, and I think that's somewhat what holds a lot of people back is that little safety net.
Well, the problem is that it's not like flat Earth or young Earth creationism where there's just no real truth to the shit that's being said, and people try to approach it the same way, and that's the worst way possible because when folks just will hear some of the claims, they don't realize that no, there's shit that has occurred. There's the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, and
that's the main one. That's
the main one that gets mentioned. Yeah,
brought up.
Yeah, and then that's why I'm familiar with it. It's like, okay, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That is something that's disconcerting. It happened in the past, and so you know what? We work now to make sure that doesn't happen in the future. And I don't downplay that, but I think people who do try to engage want to downplay that. And if you're trying to convince someone they're wrong, you don't downplay something like that because that is a serious, bioethics issue, and that's not how you win the hearts and the minds of the person you're talking to. So what I do is I say, you know what, I beat him to the punch usually, and I go, yeah, no, there's been Tuskegee syphilis experiment. There've been other instances of organizations taking it upon themselves to commit just some heinous acts against the populace. That's a fact. But you notice that you don't really see stuff like that happen anymore, do you? That you see one or two organizations maybe that'll step out of line, but with social media, with the ability for us to record stuff nowadays with this technology, that's less likely to happen. So if your issue is that, well, I don't know who's doing this, well, how do they know that you're Black, for one? Because there's other people that are doing these tests. So in order for them to know that you're black, they would have to then accurately do your DNA first, now wouldn't they? So you can't presume that there's a bias before you even turn in like the DNA sample. Like you see the problem with that, right? Because you're drawing the cart before the horse, because they already have the conclusion. They already presume that there's a bias. That's why I'll mention one of my favorite geneticists, Dr. Rick Kidder, who's a black man who runs his own genetics and genealogy lab. And so that line, about, well, who's doing the DNA? Well, Dr. Rick Kidder. He's I can't handle crackers, doing. I said, nope, he's a brother. Sorry. Oh, well, that every time I bring him up, they don't have anything to say. Never.
And that's exactly what I was asking about, because that's always the excuse is they kind of act like they can't go to school themselves and find all this information out themselves.
Yeah. Now, well, let's say, well, didn't go get the white man's education. I say, well, no, the school that I go to is run by a black woman. So, I mean, that's what I use. I know, you're not going to find too many institutions like that, but it works out for me. But I would, it's like if we're going to play that game, then I'll say, okay, so why are you on, the internet that was helped constructed by a gay white man? Is there a black internet that I need to know about? So how far you want to take this?
So I know that you're going to school for biochemistry. Have you heard about the whole white people are made of sulfur thing?
What?
Yeah, there's something that my uncle was talking about. That same uncle was talking about, like, how we're carbon-based beings. That
right.
He was saying that Europeans were made of sulfur. And I told him that he was ridiculous. I was like, sulfur? What?
They're demons.
That's hilarious.
And like he even like I don't remember the name, but he even gave me like the name of a biochemist, because I specifically asked him when he told me about the name. I said, "Is he a scientist?" He said, "Yes." I said, "What kind of scientist is he? Like, I need to know like exactly what kind of scientist he is." He said he was a biochemist, and then I don't know. I guess this guy supposedly proved that Europe.
Is this the same guy who is the turning the frogs gay thing?
No. I don't even know what's up with that guy. I don't even about the gay frog dude.
I could explain the gay frog thing. That was Dr. Tyrone Hayes, and people don't know how to read his research. That's all that is.
What does his research say?
So, okay, I don't know. I'm Googling right now for the white people sulfur thing. I have no idea. That's my first time ever hearing that. That's hilarious. We'll start saying that. Never heard that before. That's a new one.
That's like the second or third time I've heard. Yeah.
Have you heard that from Drag's channel that black people do coke?
Of course.
I don't want you to take that the wrong way when I put it in the outside chat. It's a parody. No. It's a clip off of Drag's channel.
No, I know when he gets the yeah, I know.
What I was gonna say. Okay, so,
all right.
So the gay frogs thing. All right, so Dr. Tyrone Hayes, who is a black biochemist, he was doing some research for the biopharmaceutical company Syngenta. And it had to do with the effects that the runoff from the company's factories had on the local wildlife. Well, there's a certain species of frog that lives in that area, and he noticed that there was a change in the frog population. Like there was a huge decline, and it's like, okay, so what's happening here? It turns out the runoff from this product was causing an endocrine disruption in their endocrinology, basically.
So it was basically making the frogs gay.
Well, frogs are naturally hermaphrodites, And so they have certain, external triggers to make them male or female. Well, when you disrupt that, you're going to turn them all female, and they can't breathe if they're all female.
So a bunch of them started hopping all over each other, and he equated that to something being in the.
Well, he did some tests and determined that he can elicit this effect when he introduced that mutagen to them, and so that's what his research is actually about. But people read a piece of his research, like they read the abstract, and they didn't understand that frogs and humans have a different endocrinology. We're not hermaphrodite naturally. So that's where the weird shit comes into play.
But they're turning the frogs gay.
Yeah, turning the freaking frogs gay. That's where it comes from. There you go, folks.
I thought there was also issues with people trying to reproduce his results, and he essentially was kind of very standoffish about it.
Yeah, there may be some issues. Other than me looking at like the actual study, I've not looked up at anything as far as a follow-up. He may be just doing some bad science, but he didn't say anything about humans turning gay at all. That's not what he was saying. But that's how people went and took it, which is fucking hilarious. But I guess, you're in the good system, the same as a frog. Learn something new.
Did you find anything about about sulfur-based people?
No, I tried. I have no idea. Like, I'm not even sure I'm pushing my head, man. I'm like, I have somebody I'm gonna call tomorrow and ask about that. 'Cause if this is a major thing, then he'll know it. I want to text him, but every time I talk to him, man, we end up talking for like 3 hours on the phone. And I don't mind talking on the phone, but 3 hours, just it's a lot.
Well, actually, it's only like 7:30 over here, so I'll probably hit my uncle up and ask him what the person's name was that he got that from.
Yeah, ask him, because I'm kind of curious, because it's usually someone read someone's or what they thought was someone's research, and it's a fucking blog or some stupid shit like that, and they don't know what they're reading, and like that's normally what it is.
All right, hold on. I'm about to see.
Well, white people, you made out of sulfur. Congratulations.
That's revolutionary biochemistry if I've ever heard of it.
Not sure how you keep your, I'm not sure how you do anything. I'm not sure you're alive. But,
I don't know how that works exactly.
Yeah, like what would you consume to keep going? Is there really anything that has a lot of sulfur?
Yeah, asparagus. But how
that way it makes your pee smell funny?
Yes.
And look,
that's why.
White people love grilled asparagus. Aha.
Yeah, I like grilled asparagus, but I mean, it's like, that's not how, like, it. There's only one other tetravalent element that would possibly work in the place of carbon, and that's silicon. And so, but that's
technically, like phosphorus and sulfur can also become tetravalent because their d orbitals can make more bonds. But
the issue with that is that you need the bonds that are able to break, because once they start forming the covalent bonds to provide rigidity, the amount of energy it takes to break them, right, can't be more than the
that it takes to form the bond.
It took to make it, so once because you work it at a net loss, and you'd never be able to get like a structure like a human, or hell, even a cell at that point. So I'm not sure, like, but I'm belaboring this point when the people who came up with this shit know nothing about chemistry and aren't even trying to think about the implications of something like that.
Yeah, the other issue, like, and I've talked to people who think, like, maybe silicon-based life would work. Yeah, the only issue with that is silicon is very oxophilic. So it likes to form bonds with oxygen, and it'll do almost anything to do that. Silicon chemistry is very weird, and it's not very analogous to carbon chemistry.
Yeah, it's people watching too much Star Trek.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is a silicon-based life form would have to breathe something other than oxygen.
Yeah, probably. You introduce oxygen into that system, it starts fucking things up.
Star Trek lied to me.
Hmm.
It lied to us all.
Hmm.
What argument are you having out there, Thomas?
Bucking around.
I found like one thing that talks about it, but it doesn't even. I don't even know what kind of website this is.
It's the Black Hebrew Israelite website. Look like it's made in GeoCities.
It's like some Africa something website.
Mm. Wonderful. Mm-mm-mm.
Black people do coke.
Sir.
You guys gonna make me watch Black Hebrew Israelite stuff?
Oh my God, don't.
I mean, if you want to hear people yell.
Dude, they sit there, they use the Bible, and they go through the book of etymology to twist this whole different story of the Bible. It's mad crazy.
I've had somebody do that with me. There's this, who was it? You know who Judah Nazareth is?
Not at all.
Okay. And so I've had Judah Nazareth do that to me, where he asked me what the origin of the word like faith or psychology was or something like that. And then he went into this whole history. I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with the topic? He'll go this whole diatribe. And I'm like, that ain't shit to do with nothing. So he'll derive a different meaning. But I think the part of the issue is that they think that words have intrinsic meanings. And so they go from that, which words don't have intrinsic meanings.
Oh, God, please let's not go through that conversation.
Yeah,
I'll go with Steve.
That's exactly what
it's the definition of agnostic.
Because they sit there and like my uncle even said that. He was like, oh, what's the definition of human? I was like, I don't give a fuck what human actually means back then. I just care about what it means right now. I'm like, it don't really have no other meaning than what it is right now. I don't want to hear about all the other old type of stuff. That don't really mean anything.
Yeah,
I mean, I get it if you're trying to put it in the context of the language that it was written, then I mean, somewhat that is relevant.
But the context never matters, right? That the context is just a speed bump for what they want to get at.
Well, I always think of it as like think about it if they found my phone like 1,000 years later and it had text messages on there, and I was talking about I'm about to get some bread or something like that. They would think I was talking about actual bread, and they have no idea that I was talking about money.
Right.
So sometimes I kind of think about things in that kind of context. Like, if you don't exactly know what they mean, I mean, do you take it literally every single time? Or sometimes do you put it in the context?
That's asking folks to be honest about shit, though. Because they know the difference in context from if you're talking about, a disc that you would throw like a frisbee versus like a floppy disk from back in the 90s versus a DVD or a CD disc. They know the difference between that, but they'll play fucking dumb when it comes to shit that's pertinent to their beliefs.
What about the times where they actually kind of make a point that a certain word wasn't used the exact same way, like in Hebrew or Aramaic, converted to Greek?
That's a more of a semantic point that it really depends on what the conversation is about. I can concede, points on that, fairly easily. But it would have to be something that they would show me that, all right, this is, people did X, Y, and Z back in this time period, so we should start doing it now. Well, okay, well, let's see what they actually did. Okay, well, what did they write down about what they did? And then, we could go from there.
Well, I meant more in the sense of I've always heard that when the Bible was written or whatever, the word for virgin was mistranslated or something like that, and it didn't mean an actual virgin had gave birth to Jesus.
Oh, that I don't even get into that, man, to tell you the truth. So what I learned early on is that everybody has a wheelhouse, and if you get outside of that wheelhouse, it becomes very painful. So unless I know I'm going to dedicate quite a bit of time to learning some of these languages, like Dr. Josh from
precisely. I was going to mention him.
Yeah, if I'm not really going to spend time like that, I'm not going to argue with them about that. Like if you think that these ancient people said this shit, okay, cool. I'm not going to fight you on that.
Yeah, because that's the rabbit hole that's really hard to dive down.
Yeah. Now that I think of it, I think there was a difference. I'm pretty sure in the context of the Bible, it used to mean that the birth was done without sex, not that the person had never had sex before. So virgin birth means without copulation for the birth, but doesn't mean Mary never had sex. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but that's what I was saying is I've heard different things, and where they say that is different because of the context. It's like the same argument I've heard for lie upon, because at times in the Bible, lie upon has been used for sex, and at other times it seems that it's used for a different context.
Yeah, like get dirty.
And then other times it seemed like it was for I don't even remember what the other context was, to be honest. But there are a couple of things that it seems like people debate about and aren't entirely sure on.
Mm. What the hell?
No one loves us.
Oh, I just heard shit disconnect. I was like, am I still here? Okay. Yeah, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't argue that shit for other people. Not this guy. Fuck all that. Fuck that.
Yeah, I'm not exactly going page through page about the fucking Bible.
If you want to, have at it. But, I would rather not.
So I'm surprised nobody took off and went to go watch Darth Dawkins destroy some feeble atheist.
Oh my God, where's that happening at? The modern day debate?
Where else could you get all that action where somebody won't block him or stop him from coming up?
Yeah, I don't watch Monday debates anymore, so I'm not interested in listening to Darth Dawkins.
Dude, like I'm interested in like the good debates that they have on there, but I'm not interested in anything about flat earth. I'm not interested in certain people who are just going to sit there and be intellectually dishonest either.
You're asking a lot.
Well, I mean, it's a debate channel. It's supposed to be like, I thought it was supposed to be somewhat professional in a certain sense. You at
So
least bring evidence and give rebuttals and have little time slots and shit like.
So in an actual debate, you don't ambush somebody when you right after your opening statements, and that's like one of my biggest issues with people have debates on here, because if you were trying to vet two positions on the topic, then it's supposed to be with someone with comparable knowledge as you, right? They're supposed to understand where you are in respect to topic A. You hold position X, they hold position Y, and you exchange the points that you want to make way beforehand so that your interlocutor can understand what they need to respond to after you guys have your opening statements. You categorically go down the list and address them. And then when it's your opponent's turn, they do the same, because guess what? You already know what they're going to say. So you prepare something so that everybody who's listening can understand what you're responding to and follow along. What ends up happening, though, is someone mentions something obscure and the other person's scrambling, trying to address it because they may or may not have heard it before. And I'm not really interested in hearing that, because it's like, all right, it's a game of who can play the best gotcha card. And I can do that with myself. Like I don't, but I have to understand that if you've not already been used to this for years, then, it comes across as being a bit more professional than just kind of a random hangout. But in reality, it's not. We could do the same thing for everyone that comes in here, and it would really be no different.
Well, what I've seen from like the more proper debates, it's usually it's not really about who won or whoever got somebody in the gotcha. Like the whole main point is to present info to the whole audience so that everybody can learn something, whether it's on the side that you're on or the opposition. But I mean, half the time on there, it really doesn't seem like anybody's really getting their point across.
Well, they're not supposed to really influence each other, more so than influence the audience. So if the audience is hearing, I'll give you a Standing for Truth talk about human chromosome 2 fusion. Have they been going through that ad nauseum again?
Are you asking? Because I have
Yeah,
no idea.
yeah. Okay, so can anybody in the chat who actually still watches Modern Day Debate, have they gone over that? Because I know Standing for Truth loves that topic. If you walk away from a debate like that not knowing what the sequence is for telomere, then someone's failed at some point. Like it should be pretty easy if there's sufficient, educational, I guess, aids provided and someone's communicated the point well enough, because you're not going to convince Standing for Truth he's an idiot. I know from personal experience he's an idiot.
But he seems like a nice guy.
Oh,
Man, I miss real debates.
yeah, that's a bad thing, man. It's like there were some actual good debates back in the day where, man, it's like you bring you a notepad and a pen to actually learn something.
Yeah, back in the day when you could see the public here.
Yeah, I mean, like the discussion I had with G-Man couldn't even be considered debate. The motherfucker brought a satirical website as evidence.
I was there for that. I was just like, God damn, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Because if I would have known he was going to do that, I would have called it off. I'm like, you fucking idiot! Why you wasting my time?
Now, in any other kind of like academic debate, like a structured academic debate, a debate between two professional academics, wouldn't that just basically just be a disqualifier in any debate in that setting?
Yes.
Be laughed out. Be laughed out the auditorium.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you bring any type of evidence that isn't somewhat factual, like, yes, you concede your point.
Well, the thing is, like in a real actual debate,
like what is true.
the debate wouldn't even happen.
Right.
Because you have a phase, you literally have multiple phases before the debate in front of the audience happens. And the first phase is negotiating definitions. You literally negotiate which words mean what. And then you come back a few days later and you exchange evidence and what's called positives, which is like your positive arguments for your position. Right? And you get to look through that evidence that the other person has, and as soon as you see something that would be like, if he cites The Onion, right, the debate's off.
Well, I mean, it's like that quote unquote debate you had with Jungle Jar. The conversation was about what is the topic, what is truth, and that went over like a fart.
Well, that was a setup. Right, there was a bunch of people around that had never talked to him before.
And he's unbearable.
You hadn't talked to him before, or One Way hadn't talked before?
Well, One Way and a bunch of people outside watching. Like almost everyone there had only known of him just being in the external chat. Right, not really getting in anywhere.
So I wanted so Daryl Frost says, I think it's not productive diving to the minutiae of genetics or DNA. And discussing about evolution, it's really technobabble. Okay, I'm thinking Daryl Frost is joking, but it depends on what type of point you're trying to make. Like if we're talking about the evidence for like the inferences, because it took me years to figure this out. Veckel and others, like True Empiricism and a few others, are terrible at trying to articulate the points that they're trying to make. And I still remember I was playing Elder Scrolls Online when I was in a live hangout with them, and it finally occurred to me what Veckel was asking for. He wants to know how people make the inferences of macroevolution that end up drawing connections between extinct species and extant species. That's what he's trying to find. And it's a decent question. He just doesn't know how to word it correctly.
What are extant? What are
So the creatures that exist now are extant. The ones that are dead
are the ones that are existing now. Oh, okay, gotcha. I wanted to ask that before I assumed that might be the answer. I was thinking that might be the case, but I wanted to ask.
Yeah, no, always great to ask. No, that's he didn't know how to word it, but once I phrased it that way and then I explained to him the difference between extinct and extant, he said, yes, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I said, okay, I get it. So when they make that demarcation between microevolution and macroevolution, is the fact that when we talk about microevolution, that's for extant species. When you go to macro, that includes extinct species. Well, yeah.
Well, because I was wondering, now let me see if I got this correct. So when you're talking about macroevolution isn't really about a big change over time. It's about when they say big, it's kind of a loose term. It's about basically the change happen over a larger population. Or am I incorrect?
So if you're talking about what people in the field are talking about, that's wholly different from what Veckel and them are talking about. What Veckel and them are talking about are gross anatomical changes in organisms between family. usually.
Yeah, I realize what
That's
they're
what
saying.
they're
I was
talking
looking
about.
for the actual. I was looking for the actual scientific. Like I was
Right.
just questioning
So
if that was the case. And then
yeah, so you'll find different like kind of different versions of what it's referring to, but the progression of nested hierarchies, right, into the past. That's what macroevolution is mostly covering. So, why is it that we say that we come from Tiktaalik? Why is it that we say we came from a shrew-like creature? Those are inferences that we've drawn from fossil evidence, from genetic evidence, using stuff like endogenous retroviruses, right? But it's still an inference, because they're no longer around. We can't see them, so that's part of the issue there that they have. Is like, well, how do you make that philosophical leap of faith to make that sort of conclusion?
why do they make it sound so bad if it is faith as compared to their own? That's the one thing that killed me.
Faith has kind of become a dirty word, especially for a lot of non-believers. And I've actually had a conversation too with Ozzy about this, is that because I was doing this, I was trying to avoid using the word faith because of people like Brett Keane. Brett Keane dishonestly conflates religious faith with trust, which is a synonym for non-religious faith.
A degree of confidence. Like I have faith in my wife. Yeah.
Right. So if I said that I have a confidence that a sister hominid species is Neanderthalis, then that's the same as having faith in God. No, the fuck it's not. Not at all.
No, because it's the justification is based on the inference based on the data that's been given.
Right, but
You're just drawing the inference from thin air. Yeah. You're
the confidence in a claim is what they latch onto. But the context behind that and how that works, like the mechanics of it, are being ignored because it's not pertinent to, they think it's not pertinent to what they're trying to say. If they can bring their rationale to the same level as anything else, then okay, well, then it all must be the same. And it's, if you're working with somebody who doesn't understand that difference, then you have to work backwards and help them understand the requisite information to kind of get them on board with the distinction that you're drawing.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, makes sense. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, not a problem. There's a better way to describe that with some fancy, labels and shit like that and concepts, but Sokka nor Floyd are around, so if you want a more refined explanation, you'll have to go to them.
Are you talking about philosophically or scientifically?
Philosophically. No, I got the
gotcha.
Yeah. It's a difference in and I can't there's something I'm forgetting because there's a label for how you would draw a conclusion. You draw, to form an inference based on a mere belief versus having like empirical evidence and drawing.
Yeah, that's all. That's basically that's when they get into like a priori, a posteriori beliefs, right?
Yeah, stuff like that. Like so I'm not that well versed in it to articulate it.
Neither am I. So don't beat yourself up. Don't learn that myself. Many times have I had these conversations with Ozzy and Sokka. Well, not so much with Ozzy, only a few, but with like Ozzy or with Sokka and stuff. It's like, oh shit, I gotta remember that one.
Yeah, look, I got too much science shit to remember, so I don't end up remembering all the fucking labels. I just don't.
Your brain isn't like Sherlock Holmes said. Try to remove much shit. It was in Sherlock Holmes. My brain is a flexible vault. I only hold things up there that are perfect. Everything else I try to